here we go again. It's May of 2017, and we're getting ready for kind of the first big trip of the year. Heading out to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, just north of Bowmanville, formerly known as MOSPORT. Going to check out some races this weekend. Normally we would camp at this event, but this year the weather is kind of iffy. It's going to be cold, unseasonably cold, and rainy. So we've opted to stay at a hotel. And I mean, normally this would break the rules for the trip, but this isn't our real trip. It's more so just a precursor to the big trip to France in a few weeks. My father will be here shortly, and we're going to hit the road. It's about a 45-minute to an hour drive to the hotel in Oshawa that we're staying at tonight, where we're meeting our friends Bob and Scott McKenzie, father and son. Scott's going to be traveling with us to France, so we're going to race this weekend to check out the races, but also to kind of sort out our plans and whatnot, get everything set in stone before we head off to France in a few weeks.
Welcome to MOSPORT. It was my dad that got me into racing at a young age. We were watching Formula One races in the morning instead of cartoons on the weekend. And then for my birthday, he brought me out to MOSPORT for the Trans Am races, and that kind of sparked sports cars in general.
I would be Scott's dad. My first visit to MOSPORT was September 1972 for the Canadian Grand Prix, watching Jackie Stewart win.
I would follow anything that had four wheels that raced. It was usually the only thing they showed on TV was either NASCAR or IndyCar. But as soon as I got introduced to all the other forms, it just became part of the package.
When did you first start kind of following the Le Mans 24 Hours?
Well, I remember reading about it in a book back when I was a kid about the rivalry with Ford and Ferrari, and always kind of piqued my interest. And then as soon as I saw them showing the highlights and things on TV, it just became something that I would really look forward to seeing if they showed it on TV.
I wanted to go to Le Mans since I started watching Le Mans, and it always seemed like such a far off, couldn't pull it off kind of idea, but now here it is, and I'll be heading there for 2017 24 Hours Le Mans.
Well, it's one of those bucket list things. We did Nürburgring about 5 years ago, and going to Le Mans is one of those things I want to do. It's one of those things to cross off the list, and I know it's probably going to be a little bit tough physically, but it's a sacrifice you have to make.
I'm excited beyond words, except for these words. So it's hard to describe, I guess, until we get there. It's going to be a little bit surreal.
I'm not jealous at all. I hope you guys have a fantastic time, and Spa is actually on my bucket list, and one of these days I hope to get there.
Getting ready for our big trip to Le Mans in June. This is kind of the prologue, and here we are in the Bath Porsche. Having a good time, like I said. Thanks to these guys for letting me hop in the car here. See you in June. So we made it to Pearson Airport, checked in through security on our way to Charles de Gaulle Airport in France, where we're going to pick up a rental car, head to Versailles, but first we got a 3-hour wait here in the airport. Probably gonna need some drinks, and then sit on a plane for 8 hours. Should be a lot of fun.
Yippee. I suppose by this point in the film, we should probably fill you in on our plans.
Oh, did we not do that yet?
Nope.
Well, this time around, we're heading to France to visit the small town of Le Mans for the better part of a week, located about 3 hours south of Paris.
I left a week earlier to visit my friend Howard in England, with the hopes of meeting Rick and Brad in France.
Which left us fending for ourselves for a few days.
Have we even mentioned what we're doing in France in the first place?
Nope. We're off to check out the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
A motorsport event that has been rated by multiple publications as the greatest sporting event on the planet.
Even if you don't follow motorsport, it's still a mind-blowing experience.
Each year, literally hundreds of thousands of people attend the race.
Le Mans is a 24-hour non-stop race featuring 4 different classes of cars, with 3 different drivers taking turns behind the wheel of each car.
Of the 4 different classes, 2 classes are called Le Mans prototypes.
Basically Formula 1 cars with fenders and a roof.
And the other 2 classes are Grand Touring cars, based on high-performance, street-legal vehicles.
The fastest and most expensive class is LMP1, with manufacturer-backed hybrid prototype cars pushing out over 1,000 horsepower. There are 2 cars run by Porsche and 3 from Toyota, with 1 privately run car from the Baikalus team.
Next is the LMP2 class, where all the cars run an identical 4.2-liter Gibson engine.
Not the same company that makes guitars.
There are 25 cars running chassis built by the Italian company Dallara, the French-built chassis from Ligier and Orica, and the Canadian-built Riley.
Which is built by a company called Multimatic, just outside of Toronto.
Then there's the manufacturer-backed GTE Pro category, with entries from Porsche, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Corvette, and the car we're cheering for, the Ford GT.
Which is also built by Multimatic.
Well, I was cheering for Ferrari.
And last, there's the GTE AM class, with cars similar to the GT Pro class, but are at least 1 year old, and drivers are mixed professional drivers and semi-pro drivers.
With cars from Aston Martin, Corvette, Porsche, and enough Ferraris to drive a small French village.
In total, 60 cars will race for 24 hours non-stop.
Which makes this one of the most intense and grueling sporting events on the planet.
Yeah, can't wait for Le Mans. It's our biggest race of the year, and excited to go back to the prototype.
It's a big deal for Corvette racing to be at Le Mans, the biggest road race in the world, and we've been fortunate enough to win it a few times. But you know, for selling cars, people look at that stuff. We race against Ferrari. You know, we had Jaguars in the class. We've had Aston Martins. We had, you know, 2, 3 different kinds of Ferraris. So it's you know, if you're trying to prove you're the best supercar, that's where you go.
Yeah, I've been going there for 7, 8 years, and it's yeah, I mean, it's the biggest race for us every year. Cool to come back after 50 years, and yeah, been really proud as a driver to be going there with Ford, and yeah, it's just the best race in the world.
We have officially boarded the airplane. It's incredibly cramped, and there is a small child beside us that is a little disconcerting at this point.
Loud babies aside, it was time to get off the ground. Flying to Europe for a week is never a cheap venture.
But we made plans to do the trip as frugally as possible, with a few minor exceptions.
Mainly renting a car, which even if you rent an economy car, the costs add up.
But when you're camping in a fairly remote location, taking a bus or train just won't work.
And we needed accommodation for the 4 nights we weren't camping.
Normally, staying in a hotel would break the rules for budget travel, but this time around, we didn't have many options.
We stayed with AirBNB hosts for 3 nights and had a hotel for the last night before returning home.
Though it would have been great to stay with people through couchsurfing, there just weren't any available hosts in the locations we were staying.
In the end, we were able to do the trip on a fairly modest budget.
If you don't count how much we spent on beer. We are at cruising altitude, or getting close to that now on the plane. Just a word to the wise, if you have a water bottle in the airplane, don't release the cap over your pants, because the pressure builds up in the water bottle and it will spray everywhere, getting water all over your pants and all over your cell phone, all over your camera, and it will look like you pissed yourself.
8 cramped and sleepless hours later, we descended into Paris.
Alright, so we have arrived in France. We're at the car park and we've just picked up our rental car. It is a Nissan Juke, and this is the second car we've rented in Europe, and for two, we've had bad luck on our rental cars. This isn't the prettiest car in the world, but it's purple, that's cool.
Check magnet.
Yeah. After leaving the airport, we attempted to head to the Palace of Versailles, outside of Paris.
But our GPS decided to take us downtown instead.
Which is the last place you want to drive after being awake for 24 hours.
In the end, we gave up and headed off to our AirBNB host.
In the small village of Auffargis, 90 minutes outside of Paris.
It was a huge relief to finally relax after a very long day.
Donc moi je suis Marie-Christine et
Je suis Denis.
Denis Barrault. Nous habitons à Saint-Benoît, un petit hameau près de Rambouillet. Et on a toujours ville présidentielle, oui. Et on a toujours vécu dans les Yvelines. Je me suis inscrite à AirBNB il n'y a pas très longtemps, il y a un petit peu plus d'un mois, non? Il y a à peu près un mois. Et je suis très contente. Ça se passe bien. J'ai beaucoup de personnes qui viennent passer soit plusieurs nuits, soit une seule nuit. Et beaucoup viennent pour visiter le château de Versailles. Jusqu'à présent, je suis très contente de cette expérience de Airbnb. On rencontre des gens très différents. Il va y avoir demain 2 personnes qui viennent de Paris à vélo et qui vont jusqu'au Mont Saint-Michel with a bicycle. Et donc ils vont s'arrêter pour dormir une nuit ici avant de reprendre la route vers le Mont Saint-Michel avec leur vélo.
Have you met many Canadians?
Vous êtes les premiers.
Vous êtes les premiers. Vous êtes les premiers. Mais on aimerait bien en avoir d'autres. On est très heureux d'en avoir d'autres. Je vais essayer de faire des progrès en anglais.
Nous sommes allés au Mans.
Au Mans,
Plusieurs fois.
Alors, c'est je pense que lorsque l'on était, nous, jeunes, c'était un très très beau événement. Je me souviens à l'époque, les voitures partaient, comment on peut dire, le départ du Mans, les conducteurs se mettaient à courir.
Les pilotes couraient vers la voiture.
Oui, couraient vers la voiture, sautaient dans la voiture et hop, ça démarrait. Ce qui est différent maintenant. Et quand on était jeune, j'ai l'impression que c'était beaucoup plus un événement très français, dont les Français étaient très fiers, moins maintenant.
C'est un événement important en France. La télévision le montre assez pendant les 24 heures. Ça a toujours été également une énorme fête anglaise. Vous allez voir au Mans bientôt, vous regarderez les parkings. Beaucoup de voitures anglaises. Les Anglais dorment dans leur voiture, ils ont des camping-cars, ils ont des tentes, ils font des barbecues. Alors c'est une fête française et c'est une fête anglaise.
Avec du champagne aussi.
Avec du champagne.
Bière et champagne.
Mais nous-mêmes qui sommes français, nous avons une voiture anglaise. Donc on va au Mans avec une voiture anglaise. Il y a un mélange. C'est là que les Anglais et les Français se retrouvent cousins.
So we are here in Auffargis in France after arriving in Paris, spending the day driving around Paris.
The main challenge of the day was accomplished by driving up the Champs-Élysées without getting hit, which we failed to do.
So what would be the biggest piece of advice we could give after our first day?
Always buy the full insurance coverage from the car rental company.
Driving in a foreign country always has its risks. Even if it costs a bit more, if you're renting a car, just make sure you're fully insured.
There are bad drivers in every country who enjoy a nice hit and run.
Overseas travel can be expensive. In particular, the costs leading up to the trip and on the first day or two while you get settled. As always, our plan was to keep the costs as low as possible. We pooled our expenses together on this trip. With a priority upgrade on our flight, our total came to just over $1,700 Canadian. Race tickets and camping passes came out to around $333. Our rental car was one of the bigger expenses and came out to $775 after including insurance and other various fees they don't tell you in their initial quote. Travel medical insurance was $88 and is absolutely needed when you travel. And then we bought some portable radios to listen to commentary at the race. In total, our pre-trip expenses ran $2,951. We kept our costs down on our first day, only spending $69 on accommodations in Auffargis, in addition to a few other items. One thing we'd recommend getting is an emergency cell phone. In any country other than Canada, cell phones are cheap, and it gives you the option of making local calls without insane fees from your home provider. We spent $274 on our first day, totaling $3,225 so far on the trip.
We got up really early, filled up on some of the essentials, and hit the road, stopping for some groceries first.
We are finished here at the Carrefour Rambouillet on our way to Circuit de la Sarthe, about another hour and a half away. Got all our groceries. We're gonna go check out some racing action today, try to get some ice and some gas, and see what this Le Mans thing is all about. And we'll try not to get in another car accident today.
Got action. Watch your way. We all know what happened. Say my name and only go action. Break the pain. It's all a distraction.
I think we're supposed to.
Our first afternoon at the track only scratched the surface of what we were in for the rest of the week.
After 6 hours in the sun, we headed to our next Airbnb host to try and get some rest before we set up camp for 4 days.
Our second day in France wasn't overly expensive. The biggest cost was $260 when we stocked up on food for camping, as well as buying a large amount of our camping supplies, including a stove, chairs, cooler, pillows and such. Things we couldn't bring along or take home. We spent $23 on beer at the track and $29 on food. Another $23 in toll highways heading to Le Mans, which is fairly common in Europe. We spent $335 on our second day with a total of $3,560.
So we are in Camwa, I believe it's pronounced, about 20 minutes from the racetrack. We stayed at an Airbnb last night, and now we're getting ready to head to the racetrack to camp. A couple things transpired. I've managed to come down with a cold, which started as allergies and has turned into a cold now, so that's awesome. And we've learned that finding ice to keep our beer and food cold is going to be next to impossible. So we're gonna head in to get some breakfast, some special photo passes.
Which never happened.
And then head to the Carrefour store in Le Mans and hope that they have some ice so that we can at least keep our beer cold. We're gonna have to make trips every day. And we've also learned that our car is going to be about 1 kilometer from where we're camping, so we're gonna have to haul everything across the big field.
They told us 1 kilometer. It was actually 1 meter.
Hopefully have a good day. It's gonna be nice out. I'm expecting sun for the next 3 days straight, 30 degrees. Not a cloud in the sky, so ideally perfect conditions, but also very, very hot. So keeping hydrated, I think, will be the key the whole time.
We managed to find some ice.
And some cold medication.
Then we headed to find our campsite.
Unfortunately, most of the roads we needed to take were actually the racetrack,
which made finding our campsite difficult, though eventually we did find it.
Got here on Thursday at about 10 o'clock. We kind of got through the security without too many problems. We originally were told we weren't allowed to bring our car in, but they obviously didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
When I'm not driving, we've gotten to go around and visit the camps, and even last year getting to drive with Jan Magnussen and going to visit the Danish camps. It's there's no race like it.
It's just incredible working the Mulsanne straight at 3 o'clock in the morning, and just the whole experience is kind of overwhelming, but just a beautiful thing, beautiful.
If it wasn't for Le Mans, I don't think we'd be here, so that's how important it is. The car is pretty much designed for Le Mans. It's, it suits Le Mans, it's low drag, it's low center of gravity, perfect for that particular race. And yeah, it's just, it's the one that everyone wants to win, especially the manufacturers, not just the drivers, but the manufacturers. Huge kudos for them to go out and beat the likes of Porsche or that, BMW, Ferrari, Aston Martin. Yeah, I'd say enough about it.
Le Mans is a race that I think every team, every manufacturer, every driver wants to do. And there's only 180 drivers and a couple of manufacturers and teams that get to do it each year. So I think it's really something special and something that everyone dreams about accomplishing one day.
After we arrived, our day was fairly tame.
We got our tents set up, met some of the neighbors, went into the central fan zone area and wandered around, got some more souvenirs that we probably didn't really need to buy, drank some beer. We tried to hook up with Scott over the past few hours, it seems like, and we haven't had any luck. We tried to walk back to where they were camped, and security kind of told us we had to take the long route, and we weren't really in the mood to take the long route, so we decided to put it off. But we've been continually trying with the walkie-talkies without any luck.
We arranged specific times and radio frequencies to try connect, but none of them were working. We did manage to get in touch with a very drunk British person, though.
Though to be honest, I wasn't even at the track. After dinner, we headed to the Porsche Curves to watch nighttime qualifying.
Seeing the cars in the dark was an incredible sight.
After the Toyota prototype broke the lap record and took the pole, it was time to call it a day.
The party was winding down, and it was time to rest up, or at least try. Friday started off quietly with a little breakfast, though unfortunately the only flat surface we had for cooking was the engine of our rental car.
We're hoping today will be a little more, or a little less stressful as far as traveling, because we're already set up here. Looking forward to going into the pit area today. It's wide open, so hopefully get to see the cars up a little closer, and maybe get a few more driver autographs and some more freebies from down in that area.
And so we made the 4-kilometer trek to take part in a Le Mans tradition, the fan pit walk.
Then we took a look at some of the classic cars in the Le Mans Museum.
After dinner of canned food and stale baguettes, we made the 3-kilometer trek to where Scott was supposed to be camped.
Turns out the only way to their site was walking down the actual racetrack.
Luckily, the track had been reopened for public use on Friday.
And it made for a cool experience walking down such a long stretch of the track.
What's up, bags?
Hey!
Walked.
I know, because we walked the same distance this morning, and then we walked from here all the friggin' way to the end of the mall.
So this is about my 5th time at Le Mans this time. So I've been a couple of years out whilst I was living in Canada. So one of my good friends came over to Canada, so we decided to take a trip down to Le Mans. The drive here was quite an epic drive. So we set off at 6 in the morning and got actually into Le Mans at about 8 at night. Thoroughly tired, got the tent up. Qualifying starts, so you hit the burgers, get the tent up, come and watch the racing, and then it's just all good from there.
Qualifying started not long after we got back. We whipped up some burgers, stood here. The cars at night, unbelievable. Unbelievable. The brake glow, just the, you know.
Well, it's the first time we've ever seen
It's the first time we've ever seen
before.
them racing at night. And it's unbelievable. Like, pictures do not do it justice.
The one store we went to wasn't a carport. There was a customer service desk right at the entrance. So we went over to ask for ice. She couldn't speak English. You think customer service might have a bit of a history, and so we're trying to translate ice. It's glaze. So she took us back to the department where they have the fresh fish.
Right. You're like, well, there's ice back there.
Yeah. And so the guy, he could speak English pretty good.
Oh, good.
We got the pole. We
So-
got ice from the fish counter.
And so he said you had a bet. So I ran out to the car and got some big Ziplocs.
Oh, they just filled them.
And he just took a shovel.
That's awesome.
But it was free.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Didn't pay no charge for it. Jesus. He was a really nice guy. Like, we've run into some nice people.
Yeah.
and some people you just want to go like that.
So it's the end of Friday here. We're getting ready to go to bed. It's not even that late at all. We're just kind of drained from a long day of walking. I think, what did we walk, 15 kilometers today? The weather's a lot nicer tonight. Last night got really, really cold, so we didn't have the greatest night. Be nicer tonight, but huge party here at Le Mans. Last night there was noise until about 4 in the morning. We'll see how it goes tonight. Tomorrow night's gonna be the big one, so we want to try and get rested up because we're gonna be staying up just 1 hour intervals here and there for sleeping, and so we can enjoy the race as much as possible, because this thing goes for 24 hours straight. So it's gonna be a new experience. We've never done this before. We've never seen racing at night. It's gonna be a fun one tomorrow.
Aside from some souvenirs, we kept costs down on our third and fourth day of the trip. $6 was spent on some cold medication, $15 on ice over 2 days, which wasn't nearly enough. $30 was spent on food, which was mostly just snacks and some fresh fruit and eggs. And then the biggest cost was $63 on beer. A total of $114 over 2 days, adding up to $3,674 overall.
So it's race day at Le Mans. We're just getting started here today. It's gonna be hot, not a cloud in the sky all day. Right now it's still a bit chilly out, but it's gonna be a very hot, very long day. I'm a bit sniffly. I'm not sure if I have a cold or what. I'm trying to take some allergy medications for it, but I don't know if it's working. Haven't showered in 3 days. Been eating terribly. But, you know, that's what Le Mans is all about, I guess. Probably drink some more beers, eat some more canned pasta. Stay up as long as we can tonight.
We tried and failed restocking our ice supply before the race.
We had a refrigerator in the car. No hot beer for us for at least 1 day.
Before we knew it, the race was about to begin.
And we are underway in the 2017 Le Mans 24 hours.
After a couple hours of racing, we began making our way into the fan area to meet up.
We got there early and were forced to pass the time by drinking beer.
Before we knew it, the sun was setting and dusk was upon us.
Cameras away and sat trackside until around 3 a.m.
When we both started having double vision, we decided it was time to turn in.
We were all ready for a solid 3 hours sleep.
So it's Sunday. We are at Arnage Corner. We took a bus, took about an hour to get here, kilometer or so. Arnage Corner, we're at Scott's camp right now, about to watch some racing, head up and try to catch the end of this thing. It was a fairly eventful nighttime period. Some of the big cars dropped out, a bit hungover from last night. I'm sure the audio right now is terrible. Yeah, we're gonna go watch the race and finish out the day here, then head back to Auffargis tonight.
It's been an unbelievable experience to come to my first 24 hours of Le Mans. The track is huge, the cars are awesome, the hybrid P1 cars are just astonishing jet machines and so unreliable that, you know, maybe a P2 car will win. Who knows? The race isn't over yet.
As we hung out with Scott and Howard with under 4 hours to go, the leading LMP1 Porsche broke down, which meant all 5 hybrid P1 cars had suffered failures, and would see the number 38 LMP2 Orica Gibson owned by Jackie Chan take the overall lead. The only remaining Porsche LMP1 car a dozen laps or so behind the new leader. The number 63 Corvette was leading in the GTE Pro category, and the number 84 Ferrari in GTE AM.
So the experience of Le Mans this year, I mean, it's, wow.
It's been incredible. I mean, I've been here a couple of times, but I've never been to the paddock. I've never seen the Ferris wheel. I've never been over the Dunlop Bridge. I mean, it's just incredible here. There's so many people, and there's so much to do.
So we parted ways with Scott and made the 8-kilometer journey back to the Dunlop curves to watch the end of this epic race.
30-minute journey in an air-conditioned bus.
We're in the last half hour of the race hitting the Dunlop curves. 23 and a half hours later, we're almost done.
Actually, to be technically correct, we're down to the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're going to be done very quickly. Hopefully the Fords will show a respectable.
We're supposed to be unbiased. Go for it.
Howard and I decided to stick around until the race finished, and it was well worth it.
What feelings are going through your head during the last 2 laps of Le Mans this year?
You know, you have your hopes up pretty high. You know, we were gonna look like we were gonna win and at least be really close.
In the final laps, Aston Martin and Corvette fought side by side for the class lead.
When the Corvette hit a curb and broke their suspension, Aston Martin took the lead to the finish.
With Ford coming around to finish second.
And the Porsche that broke early in the race, well, they came back to win overall.
Within a few minutes of the race being over, the track was opened up to the fans for podium celebrations.
Didn't quite understand the size and scale of this event. We're walking down on the front straight after the race, and they expect 70 to 100,000 people on the front straight for the podium celebrations. That's how big this event is. Quite sore from the day. My feet are in excruciating amount of pain. All packed up, ready to head back to the Airbnb in Auffargis tonight. Hopefully get a good night's sleep and then head off to Paris tomorrow, get rid of our crashed rental car and see the Eiffel Tower if we're feeling up to it. Been a long day, fun trip, but extremely tired. So good, looking forward to a nice long sleep tonight.
And so the 2017 Le Mans 24 Hours was over.
Throughout the duration of the race, we only spent money on liquids due to the heat. $31 was spent on water and $17 on soft drinks to mix with our whiskey and rum. Naturally, $53 was spent on cold beer. A total of $101, adding up to $3,775 overall. Well, it is Monday morning, our last full day in France. So we got a good sleep, showered off. The amount of dirt that you acquire over 4 days is absolutely ridiculous. So we're cleaned off, got some coffee, our water is cold for once because Le Mans doesn't have ice. And now we're gonna pack our things up, go to our hotel, drop off our luggage, then get rid of our rental car and take the train, or try to take the train into Paris. Should be a lot of fun. See the Eiffel Tower, you know, basic landmarks of Paris. We're not gonna spend too much time there today, so it's kind of tired. But sad to be leaving. This is a fantastic place, right in Auffargis. Very relaxing.
The mist is going to mess up the picture.
We're at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Of course, this tower is built and named after the 90s electronic pop band, Eiffel 65.
Freaking paint on this thing is good 1/16 of an inch thick. No wonder they say it takes 7 tons of paint to cover this damn place.
We are in Paris. We were going to head to the Champs-Élysées, but apparently there's been an incident there. But now we're at a nice restaurant. We're going to have a decent dinner and croque monsieur, croque madame, a more traditional French sandwich. They're really good. If you're ever in France and have the opportunity to try one, try one. Beer and some ketchup.
And so we headed back to the hotel and packed our bags for the flight home.
We're at the airport in Paris, about to head home through security. About to get on the plane, and a week after we arrive, time to head home. Trip wrapped up pretty quick, so it's a good one. The airport security was really tight today after the obvious incidents that are happening here, and yesterday, of course, there was a terrorist incident in Paris. So we're heading home now and hopefully have a good flight and get back to Toronto and a nice sleep with non-feathered pillows for once, so that'll be nice.
And not square pillows, regular shaped pillows.
And air conditioning. For anyone watching this, nobody in Europe has air conditioning. If you're in North America, you're used to it. So it can get a little toasty here, especially when it's 35 degrees every day. There you go.
Our day in Paris and the return trip home had a few bigger expenses, which is normal for overseas travel.
Before we left, we bought an extra bag to check on the airplane, which is included in the upgraded ticket. In Paris, and before and after our flight, we spent $108 on food and drink. $98 was spent on transit to cover the train to Paris, a cab to the hotel, and a shuttle to the airport. It was only $50 to go up the Eiffel Tower, which was well worth it. And when we returned to Canada, we paid $150 for parking at Pearson Airport.
Parking fees can greatly vary, and if you can take public transit to the airport, do it.
On our final 2 days, we spent $527, with a grand total of $4,302.
We had some frivolous expenses as well, which we won't add to the trip total.
I spent $39 on duty-free alcohol, and he spent $33. I spent a total of $167 in souvenirs, and he spent $254. Of course, souvenirs are by no means necessary.
But sometimes it's fun to buy a model car or a new shirt.
Three weeks later, we were back at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where we met up with an old friend.
Well, we did a long trip to the States where we stayed at people's places and it was very cheap, like basically free stay, and that was great. Le Mans is not that. You gotta pay for flights, you gotta pay for accommodation, renting cars, like there's a lot of costs. I love Scrabble!
So Le Mans was an incredible experience. There's nothing like it.
My experience at Le Mans was unbelievable. It is something I will do again, probably in 3 or 4 years, on account of it is quite expensive if you're coming from Canada, but you can't not go.
Well, I know it sounds cliche, but that was like once in a lifetime and mind-bending and all those other things.
If you're a fan of motorsports, if you're a fan of sport in general, you should save up the money and go to the Le Mans 24 Hours because it's more than just a motorsports event. It's just a global sporting event.
You know, it's one of those bucket list items that so many people talk about, and just to have the chance of going there even once was fantastic.
We saved up for a long time. We waited for a long time to do this, and I think it was worth it. We saw a good race. We had a great time. France is a phenomenal country. I would go back in a second.
The Fords didn't do quite as well as we'd hoped, but all in all, it was still a good result. And but it was just a good day, or a good 3 days, 4 days, 5 days.
Most difficult experience? Dealing without ice, dealing with the heat.
There's a lot of residential areas with no convenience stores and or grocery stores in France, so just bear that in mind.
The challenging part was just the walking, and in combination with the heat.
I will be going back to Le Mans hands down at least 2 or 3 more times, but not for another 3 or 4 years again. Cost redundant because coming from Canada, the flight alone was $800-900, and then you got to kind of find your mode of transportation, where you're going to sleep, etc., etc., etc.
Coming here into MOSPORT is fun, but Le Mans is a totally different experience. It's absolutely incredible.
Right now, if somebody told me that I could go again next year, I'd be all over it.
I would love to go to Le Mans someday. Hopefully maybe in the next 2 years or so when you're thinking about doing it again. And that would be an amazing trip, and I look forward to it. And hopefully I can save up for that.
I've fallen through thick brush and fire too, all to see me here on my own. Lanterns on hand lead the way to fall again, on again, all again on you. So walk into monarchs and feel the wings. Come now, the sun will be up again.
Like I say, we had great people all around us at the campgrounds. Yeah, it was a little dusty. It was, you know, a lot of walking, but that's the way things go. You can't have everything perfect.
I wouldn't have traded it for the world. The whole trip was amazing.
All in all, it was a very tiring but a very enjoyable experience.
It was totally worth it, and I can't wait to go back again.